Hello, everybody. How we doing? My name is Jennifer Holshouser, and thank you for joining us today on Join Jen. It's Join Jen. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. This guy is amazing. He's extremely funny, very knowledgeable. He knows all of the ins and outs about flights, and that is what we are here today for, to learn how all the ins and outs about flights. He knows what the best seat is on the airplane to sit. Okay. So Ben Selly, he has been an agent with Archer Travel for a little over a year now. Prior to that, he has traveled literally all over the world. He's booked travel for highly known professionals. And he decided he wanted to start making this a career. So tonight, he's going to share his flights knowledge with us and teach us a thing or two about the best way to approach booking the flights for you and or your clients. He created us with his own cheat sheet for you to follow and have. I'm going to share those in the chats, and definitely grab a notebook to take notes because there's a lot of information. We might have to split this up into multiple weeks, multiple parts. Because definitely take notes because you do not want to miss anything. So Ben Selly, the screen is all yours.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. What a wonderful introduction. Boy, am I flattered for such a notoriety. I mean, considering the fact that, one, I do appreciate everyone attending today because there is a lot of information I'm going to be sharing. However, there's going to be a lot of semi-boring details, but it's because I've been what we call an av geek for years, a long time, meaning I'm obsessed with everything commercial airline involved. And being in fact that I've traveled all over, I love sharing this knowledge if people are willing to learn about it. So that being said, it is something that I do as a passion to know about what's the latest trends in the airline industry, especially. I'm not a travel agent, flight attendant. I'm not a pilot, and I'm not a ticketing agent, but I do know a lot about a thing or two that they do know that I think would help a lot of you as travel agents in your own business. So the very first document that I do want to share that Jen brought up is the cheat sheet, the North American airline cheat sheet. You don't have to scan everything now or look it over, but what it shows is a breakdown of all the main North American airlines as far as the main carriers that are known as mainline. There's about 13 of them, plus the regional carriers. There's about another 13, 14 of those, and then 2 from Mexico and 2 from Canada. Because what I want you to understand, and for those of you who've been booking travel or for beginning, this is just a helpful guide to understand what the heck you're looking at when talking about airlines with your clients. Because as we know, most likely airline tickets in and of itself aren't commissionable. And so today, what I want to do is give you an idea of ways to maximize that knowledge and also benefit you utilizing the business portals that some of these airlines have and which I've been involved with for many years. And I'll show you the benefits on some of those. So first off, on this airline cheat sheet, looking at the legacy or the mainline carriers, most of you have probably heard of at least all these airlines to some degree. Whether or not you know their actual hubs, not so important. Whether or not you actually know the airline codes, whether it's IATA or ICAO, not so much as important. But what is important is to understand that when you are booking a ticket, and whether it's part of a package deal, whether it's just the airline ticket in of itself, each airline has its own 3-digit prefix identifier from IATA. And that's the 6th column over, 3-digit number. On every ticket that airline sells, regardless of how it's sold, it will have 3 digits that are succinct on every single ticket it wears on that airline. Now, what's important to understand is when you add in the fact of airline partners, alliances, and so forth, it becomes a little muddled. And that's why it's important to understand that even though it says one thing with regards to those 3 digits, it could very well reflect a different number on the actual ticket if it's sold as a partner airlines ticket. And without getting too confusing there, just kind of briefly understand that these are all different. And that's the important thing. The main thing with the mainline carriers is that they supersede any of the regional carriers. Even though the regional carriers have their 3-digit identifier, most likely if the ticket is sold utilizing a regional carrier, they'll actually use just their own. For example, start off with Alaska Airlines. They have partners with several other airlines, but if you see 027 on all the tickets that show that number, it is sold as an Alaskan Airlines ticket, regardless of the regional carrier they're part of. Next to that column is the primary website, which I'm pretty sure most of us could Google, find, and figure out on ourselves. And by the way, just so you know, all those websites and so forth, this is a hyperlink. So on your PDF, you could actually click it and it will take you directly to that website as an easy guide for you. So you don't have to go scrambling and typing it in somewhere, as long as you have an open browser. The primary website, that's great. We most likely know what that's all about, but it's a business website that most travel agents may have heard of, might not know of, might not even understand what it's about, but what those are. And I've been, like I said, using these for such a long time, is that they're for small business, for travel agents, to give you a benefit of having an additional cost saver benefits to use, whether it's miles upgrades, seat upgrades, extra baggage, class cabin changes, and that you, as the owner of the business, could actually use as a gift for employees, gift as to your repeat customers, for yourself, which I've done, and those accrue quickly. The main requirement for all the business accounts is that you need to have an EIN number. So if you are just beginning, a lot of times you're not going to have that yet, which is your business account number. That is what's required to be a part of the business portion website. Once you go into that, you can easily log in and fill out the information. But I was going to give an example by going to the Delta Sky Bonus program. And if Jen could definitely, well, wouldn't mind. There we go. Ooh, did I? So here we are. At the top of it, Delta Sky Bonus is the current name of their business program, but it's about to change over to SkyMiles for Business. It's the same thing. But just to start off, you can easily look at this as the top part. You see the ticket. The ticket there shows the airline code, which is 006, plus the 10-digit number. And that 006 is what's important, again, as I mentioned earlier, with every airline having their own, to make sure you are able to identify that ticket to either get credit for and or utilize to add your account number once you've signed up, obviously. It's important to also understand that even though those numbers kind of are going to get muddled, it's always going to be 3 digits plus the 10-digit code. And most airline tickets, regardless if it's Delta, Frontier, whatever, are going to have it listed somewhere. In addition to the confirmation number, which is usually a combination of letters and or numbers at the very top under their name. But that being said, it's important to understand the airline code is what you're looking for, because whether or not when you're booking a ticket, you don't have to have that number at the time. You can always ask for retro credit as long as you have the full ticket number and are able to recognize it from the beginning. That's an important way to at least understand that this is something that you're going to get credit for, and that you have usually about a year to kind of get the retro credit on. And I'm telling you guys right now, the benefits are redonk. And Sky Bonus with Delta is probably one of the best programs. I'm also involved with American Airlines Business Extra program, United's Perk Plus. Actually, United has 2 technical programs, Perk Plus and Perks Pass. One utilizes people with an actual Mileage Plus account, and the other is with the actual ticket. That being said, if you look down at the bottom of this second box on the Sky Bonus, you'll see kind of some of the benefits of what these offer you. And again, it takes time, but if you are booking a lot of flights, this is a huge benefit that a lot of people kind of don't even know about, just because it's something that's either, oh, it's too foreign, they don't have an EIN number yet, or whatever. But this gives you an incentive to really want to be a part of this. And it's nothing more out of your pocket. It's just an extra time to actually manage an account. But once you're involved, you'll see what I'm talking about. The benefits that will help you out big time. And then going towards the bottom is just introductory member stuff with regards to their latest updates as far as the Sky Bonus program. Most airlines are very similar. They all have their kind of quirks as to how many retro credits you can have per month and so forth in their cycles, but they're very similar in the fact that they are benefiting small business, technically travel agents like yourself. So if you don't have an EIN number, have not signed up as a business entity, this is where this kicks in to be a benefit for you, because this is a huge, rewarding but beneficial aspect to have for both yourself and your clients in the future. Gosh, that was a lot. So let's, Jen, if you wouldn't mind going back to the cheat sheet, that would be awesome. And going towards the bottom of that, I just want to quickly touch on the Canada and Mexico. The reason I put those in there is because a lot of times if you have, people obviously going to Mexico, whether it's Cabo, Cancun, sometimes our partners are with that. And it's important to understand who our partners are, even with Canada, because once you get yourself versed with the alliances and the code share partners, which are pretty much listed here. And by the way, it did take some time, but to get the most updated information, a lot of it was outdated online, but hopefully a lot of this will keep changing, but in a good way for the benefit of you. But I'm going to start off with, there are a bunch of operating systems as far as ticketing goes, which some of you are familiar with. The top 5 really are Amadeus, Sabre, or you can read it yourself. By the way, that top 5 global distribution system, GDS, is an actual link in of itself. If you want to read more and bore yourself to sleep, fine. But it is a helpful way to understand what GDS is really all about. In addition, the very middle part is about the difference between IATA and ICAO, which they both have similar qualities or functions, but IATA is more so with the airlines, whereas ICAO is more so with the governments and governing bodies that the airlines are a part of. And so though they have their own codes and so forth, the only reason that you should know about it is because if someone says one of those numbers or those acronyms for that actual symbol, technical number, digit, or code, at least you'll have an understanding what that's all about. And then to the far right, there are 3 major alliances in the world, slightly ever changing: Star Alliance, One World, SkyTeam. The big thing to know about that is the big 3 airlines in the US, Delta, American, United, are all part of one of those. And the biggest hiccup right now is the fact that, this is kind of boring, but if you are familiar with SAS, which is a regional, the national airline of the Scandinavian country, they're actually leaving Star Alliance, which is, they're one of the founding partners. They're going to be going over to the SkyTeam. And the same point, ITA, which is an Italian carrier, technically formerly Alitalia, is going to be leaving SkyTeam and going over to Star Alliance. And though that might not seem like it's important because when airlines do that, that is a huge shift, but it also opens up different avenues of options for your customers when you're booking travel. And that's important to know too, because in this ever-changing environment that we're in, understanding who's affiliated with who in real time is going to save you a lot of headache. And understanding too, when you're booking for your travel for your clients and they say, but it says Air France, but it says Delta, which one am I flying on? You'll know based on the fact of 1, the ticket number, but also 2, the alliance partners that are affiliated with the airline. So that being said, one other thing that is important to know is the idea of what NDC is, which kind of comes up a lot lately just because it's an ever-changing point, and that is the last attachment. NDC, for those of you who don't know, it is an industry standard. It's not a new platform. It's not a new system. It's an industry standard because those other platforms I mentioned earlier, like Amadeus, Sabre, they have a system that's quote unquote old school. And I would say old school because they're mainly for price and schedule. What NDC does, the new distribution category or capability, is to give customers via the travel agent a similar option with all the information as they would on their own website. Meaning, when you use Amadeus or Sabre, you're just seeing the price and the schedule. NDC opens up to showing cabins, additional amenities, extra this and that, lounge access, all these things that aren't currently in there. In fact, today, and I was telling Jen this earlier, Air Canada just agreed to allow NDC to be a part of their system, meaning now the companies that they're associated with the platforms are going to be seeing more options if you're booking a flight with Air Canada because of NDC. And that's ever changing, but it's not, again, it's not a new system, it's a standard. NDC is about mirroring what you see on an airline's personal website to reflect that information in the same area on one of these platforms that most often you'd have to search separately, and you're not going to get the most up-to-date information that the airlines want you to share to your customer, if that makes any sense. So you can read this thing on the NDC fact sheet in and of itself from IATA. It is very helpful, but it is going to be something that you're going to be seeing a lot, especially with package deals, whether it's on vendors like Vax and some other ones. You'll see NDCs popping up there as the option. When that is, it's because they're starting to show more information that's available to your client for ticketing, pricing, and options for upgrades. And that's another reason why you want to make sure when you're booking travel, especially with airlines, to see who is affiliation with airline partners, because that's going to help you sell even more tickets to that airline, but also to your customer when they're getting benefits for themselves. Because just so you know too, all these business websites, yes, you get the points, you get the value, you get all the perks of it, but your customer still gets their own airline mileage or the accrual for that travel. So this is an addition now for you as a business owner. The customer doesn't change so much. They just get more information, but at the same time, because most often than not, as a ticket in and of itself, you're not getting too much of the commission, if anything at all. This way, you're actually getting a benefit to actually maximize your business and kind of reward yourself in the long run for something that might in and of itself seem like, I'm not making any money off of this. Well, now you're actually going to get an incentive to do so, and perhaps even save money for the sake of the fact that they're going to start pushing out more deals and specials through these business websites that are not even going to be on these other platforms. And that's why NDC is so important to understand too. That's what they're trying to get to. And in the meantime, a lot of companies, small businesses, especially in travel agents, are going to these business websites and signing up to that because that's going to benefit them in the long run for the interim, if that makes any sense. Okay. Did I cover the majority of everything, Jen?
I think you did. Now, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type those in because I know everybody's going to have questions.
I'm sorry if I talked over myself. I honestly get excited talking about this weird stuff, but it's so fascinating because it's so ever changing. And I love to stay on top of it. And for me, anyone who wants to talk about it, I'll talk their ear off. And most of you who do know me know that I already talk your ear off. So this is not just a, oh, he's just talking about it just because he Googled it. No, I actually love this stuff. So, and that's what it is. It's like my knowledge, oh my gosh, to talk to you guys, just for the sake of this, knowing that's going to be a benefit to you is a huge win overall. And I think in the long term, you guys will see what I'm talking about, especially for your own safe, frame of mind, I guess, when it comes to trying to understand the airline industry better. Go ahead.
Oh, first I have a question. Did everybody receive all 3 files that I shared? And then,
oh, that's right. Because if you don't come on at the right time.
Okay, so I see a lot of yeses. All right, perfect. Scott does have a question. So Brian said, Ben, you did great. Scott has a question. I have a question about the alliances. Do the miles from Delta, for example, transfer to Air France?
That is correct. So once you are a part of an alliance, so let's say you're just with Delta, you can use those miles for airlines, tickets with Air France, KLM, and so forth. In the case of the actual business account, they do have restrictions as to not every partner. So just keep that in mind. It's not every partner, whether they're part of the Star Alliance, One World, Sky Team. You do have the benefit of it. So in time, you'll see what I'm talking about. But yes, those accounts, as far as your membership goes, as far as a passenger, do get credited to the airline that is associated through the alliance.
Ben, I've got a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So let's say you have a Air France account and a Delta account. Is there a benefit to having one from each airline, or should you just have like one Delta account and have the Air France miles go to that?
That's a great question because they are transferable between accounts, especially when they're on a part of a major alliance such as so. But if you are traveling a lot, for example, in Europe, I would keep the Air France separated and not just ignore what's available. Because here's the thing, if you're logged into your Air France account and you have their miles accrued on there, yes, they're transferable, but the airlines in of themselves, especially international carriers, are going to have a little more restrictions than Delta would per se with regards to what they allow you on their options for using, if that makes sense. In this case, on Delta Sky Bonus, the technical partners that they only allow right now is Air France, KLM, Virgin Atlantic, and I believe one other one. But those are major carriers. But when you, and that's another thing too, by the way, if you're already part of it, especially in the business program, you can transfer even miles to the other airline and or the points that you get from having these business accounts to the individual airlines account mileage numbers, if that makes any sense. And that's another thing too, that there's so many legs to what is the benefit, but in the long term, I would keep them all. I wouldn't say, oh, I have Delta, meaning I'll get rid of all the ones associated with this guide team. Don't do that. Because in this day and age, with ever-changing alliances, airlines leaving, airlines going to under, it's wise to keep it separate, especially if you have a US carrier account plus an international one. Very different. And even though they're succinct, it's wise to keep them both.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben.
All right, Sheila had a question. So you purchase tickets for clients through whatever airline, then you record the ticket info and get whatever credit each airline offers through these programs?
Sure, yes. And to clarify that, yes, for example, you could even get it through a third party, even like on Travelocity, any of the websites that you have. That ticket at the end will still reflect the airline that it's on, meaning the 3-digit code will reflect there. But once you are a part of these programs, in the case of Delta on Sky Bonus, you can actually book the tickets if it is a Delta related flight on a separate travel portal, which is another thing too that they have individually for the business. And that will show all their partners that allow those flights, whether it's using SkyMiles and or paying for an actual ticket. But the thing is, the retro credit is important if you didn't, because every time you sign up with one of these business partners, you actually get your own code and identifier as your company once you're approved. That you can actually ingest at the time of ticketing if you're on the main website of the airline, put that in there so it's automatically credited. And or in some cases like Delta, you can have your client actually add you as a travel agent with your number on their thing so that when you add their SkyMiles number in the future, it automatically populates and then you get the benefit, they get the benefit, and everyone's happy. So yes, there are several ways to get the credit for it, but it's important to understand you still get an identifying number. You have to keep that information separate from everything else because you will have, like I do, multiple accounts, but it's beneficial because you will see how it adds up. And every, I'd say 3 or 4 weeks, most airlines update their tallies. And sometimes it's just like, whoa, I didn't realize I sold that much. And we're not even going to talk about it today, but if it's a category fare, different categories, whether it's an L class, N class, M class, those all mean different money points and points that you get for your business. So that's another thing too. What you thought was only $350 actually then reflects as a ticket because it was an L class ticket as double that in the terms of points that you get in the back end. Does that make sense?
All right. Well, Ben, I think you did a very good job explaining because there's no more questions.
Or you fell asleep, but I think really, and that's totally fair, but I think people should know that at least use this cheat sheet to understand what you're looking at and know who your airlines are, especially here in the United States. At the end of the day, I put my information at the bottom. I am so happy to answer weird questions about stuff in regards to airlines. So you can hit me up by all means at any hour and I'll respond because to me, the more you know, I think the better it benefits all of us, and especially in the airline industry with the ever-changing environment we're in. This is just the beginning, and it's going to get better. But to understand the craziness now is only going to benefit you in the long run.
All right. I think thank you for doing this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a lot of thank yous. So thank you, Ben, very much. The cheat sheet he created on his own. So definitely this is a one of a kind. Nobody else has these. You guys
Nobody
are
has it. And you'll get a bill in about 2 weeks for about
yeah.
we do
Yes.
payment plans.
So you guys
But,
are very lucky to have this.
you get it while it's hot and free.
While it's hot. All right. If we don't have anything else, we'll probably do, since there's so much information about the airlines, if Ben's up to it, we'll probably do maybe another one another time, like maybe every other week or something like that. I'll have to get with Ben and see.
Well,
But
there is so much more that this is just the tip of the iceberg. But this, like you said, yeah, I think definitely more parts to it, especially once people realize, oh, now I want to know more. And guess who wants to tell you about it? This guy.
that guy.
Where are you from?
Ben does. All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And where's my stop recording? All right.